Ward for Success Express, your business, career, and financial radio magazine. Hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
San Diego employment attorney Ward-Heinrichs is back here on Big Blend Radio Success Express show today to talk about the new California independent-contractor-test and how it may affect the hospitality and transportation industries. This is, we've talked a lot with Ward, Nancy, about, what's going on with independent contractors versus employees, but this is a new big thing that is happening right now. It's all changed. And Ward, he's a regular Big Blend Radio guest and a contributor not only to Big Blend Radio and TV magazine, but also Parks and Travel magazine, especially in our hospitality and tourism section. And you can learn more about his work. Go to his website, bestemploymentattorneysandiego.com. I mean, talk about tourism. That's a hotbed of it over there, and it's sunny and beautiful. So he's also on Twitter at Ward-Heinrichs and Facebook as well. Ward, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Well, thank you, Lisa and Nancy. I appreciate it. I'm doing well.
That's good. Well, you're in beautiful San Diego. Summer is coming. I know that you've gone through a little June gloom, but we're sending you our sunshine because it's getting hot, and we want you to have some of it. It's like, send it over to you, Ward. But this new thing, the ABC test, as you call it, it really is. This is a brand new thing, yet at the same time, it's something that's been brewing for a while. And your article on this is in the Parks and Travel magazine, the June-July issue, and also up on our Park and Travel magazine website, which is nationalparktraveling.com. So if you go there, everyone, just type in Ward, you'll see his articles come up there. But this is something that's brewing for a while, right?
Yes, other states have had this. In fact, about 2/3 of the states have either this exact test or a test that's pretty similar to it. So, California's been aware of it, but we had this complicated, 8-factor test under Borrello. You've interviewed me about that before, so I'm not going to get into all those details. But again, 8 factors. This one only has 3. And we anticipate that it's going to make more independent contractors into employees. The simplicity of the test helps provide that, so you don't have to do all this crazy analysis. You just look at 3 separate things. And one of the factors, number 2, that the workers perform work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business. So, if you're working for the company and bringing in money, especially in their primary revenue source, there's no way you can be an independent contractor in this test. And we've seen cases with truckers, for instance, in California, where they worked for one trucking company, and the trucking company would say, well, we don't have enough control over them, all these things. If you look at the Borrello test, we passed these factors. So there was a big concerted effort in that industry and some other industries to keep people as independent contractors. And I think this test makes it really clear that that's just not going to happen.
Well, with this test, is this something that, say, there's a hotel or there's like a restaurant, and then there's like catering companies or something like that come in and like, hey, we can do this for you. I think catering companies is one of those. You could be a person catering, or sometimes now you're working, catering can get interesting. Even bartending, because sometimes somebody gets hired as a bartender for an event, and they could be a professional bartender and hop from company to company to company. So are you an independent contractor, or are you an employee if you keep going back to that same place? So something like that happens, and then now you have to do this test. What happens? I mean, is it like the employer goes, I'm going to ask you these 3 questions, and is it documented anywhere is where I'm getting to, or is this something that, just be aware of these 3 things?
Well, yeah, not documented in terms of the employer probably don't go over these factors. Maybe the very careful employer does, just so that they won't cross the line. But I think that would be very rare. What the agencies look at, what the courts look at is, well, what did the worker do day to day? So normally the question is, well, what are the facts of the workplace? and the analysis always revolves around that. It doesn't normally revolve around an agreement or an analysis, pre-analysis by the employer and the employee. If that's what you're asking, I think that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, it's just going to somebody. Like, do you have to document this and people sign a piece of paper saying, we've answered these 3 questions, this test? And when someone
Oh, no.
Test, I went to school mode, man. I just thought I had to go back to school. That's what I'm saying. So
No, you don't have to have anyone answer these questions. This is a test for the courts to apply.
Okay.
So they're looking at 3 aspects.
Yeah.
Like, if I own a truck and I am hired by a company to move produce from here to there, and that's the only company that I work for, am I an employee or independent because I own the truck?
Yeah, now I think there's always variations in the facts, and I would say, especially if you have your own business card and you're trying to work for potentially other people to fill up or other entities to fill up your schedule, then you're starting to get more and more like an independent contractor. But in this ABC test, number 2 says the worker performs work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business. So if you're a trucker and you own your own truck, and a trucking company says, hey, we want you to work for us as an independent contractor, and you go, okay, well, you're doing their business. So I think it's very difficult under this test to say that person is not an employee. I think it's slightly different if someone goes work for Walmart, for instance, and maybe their business isn't really about shipping; it's about retail sales. However, I would be careful about that because maybe shipping is an important part of their business. I mean, if they have their own fleet and then they have some outside contractors potentially, I think you can argue, hey, they do their own internal shipping. That's an important part of their business, not outside of their business. And I'm kind of winging it here because we just got this test. Now, I haven't looked how other states have resolved it, and I'm sure that the courts here will probably look to decisions in other courts to get an idea of how those questions have been resolved in other places before they, just make something up. But since I haven't done it, I don't know how that's done. But I'm just looking at this test and saying, wow, there's this one factor that really could change things.
Wow. It's interesting because when you look at Amazon, who now wants to bring your shopping to your door and let themselves in and leave the produce, and I'm assuming there that Amazon would be the people who own the cars, and those people would definitely be employees. But I'm also thinking that I know they're huge, but I don't know that they could cover everyone that wants groceries or products delivered. So they might start not hiring, or
are they going to become Uber and Lyft?
Yeah.
Amazon Lyft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they going to get the extra people to service the outlying districts that they can't handle?
Well, you might try to bring them on as independent contractors, and then the question is, well, is Amazon really a retailer, a non-box retailer, and would the delivery be part of their business? And I would say in that instance, it sounds to me like the delivery is an essential part of their business. They're saying, hey, look, you come onto our website, you want some groceries, we're going to send them to you. You don't have to come to a store. We're just going to give them to you. And people really like that service. That seems to me to be part of that service that they're offering. So I would say, again, this is such a new test. I don't know how the courts are going to come down on all this, but that's what, if you read the commentary, that's what many employment attorneys are talking about, saying this is really going to expand things. They anticipate an expansion so that more people are covered. And I would say, boy, at the very least, I would tell Amazon, look, if you're trying to do this with independent contractors, you got a problem. I can't tell you how the courts are going to work it out, but I have an inclination. I think I know. I think I have a good idea of how it's going to be worked out.
It's going to be a big opening. And, I mean, the idea of not having the employee would be to save money by not having health care and things like that.
Yeah, that's one of the things, and that's one reason why the California courts and the administrative agency is so interested in this question, because the state has a stake in it because of FICA, FUTA, and all the withholdings. They want more. And independent contract, if you're truly an independent contractor, you don't have to do those withholdings.
See, this is where it gets tricky. And then so like, here's the deal though. It's you're talking about the Amazon side of things, and you look at Uber and Lyft and things. When it becomes Uber's like, and that's still tricky, weird. But when you look at pizza delivery guys, or you know what I mean, that to me that goes, that's part of your restaurant, and you have a delivery service. That is going to be, if they're using their cars, they put that little thingy on there saying, I'm like a Domino's pizza and I'm bringing it to you.
And they do use their own cars.
Yeah, and then but they're using that sign on their car. There's advertising going on their car that they should get paid for. So it gets the
condition of their employment.
Yeah, but
you have to bring your own car.
Yeah, but what happens if you have an Adam Sandler car? You know that song. But anyway, I'm just saying. We just type in Adam. I'm not going to go there. I got to watch my mouth. But that's what I'm saying. The pizza delivery thing to me is one of those weird things. But that is, you are an employee, right? But you're using your own car. That's weird.
There have been cases about that, and most of the cases I've seen, they've been in a slightly different context. Usually it's with a personal injury case or a workers' comp case. But in the cases that I'm thinking of, they've always been found to be an employee. Now, I suppose it's possible if someone, and then that's before the ABC test, and now I think the ABC test makes it even more clear. But I suppose it's possible that someone says, "Hey, I'm a delivery guy or girl, and I will deliver anything for anyone. I'm going to pass out my cards to all the restaurants in town, and if they need me to deliver, I'm going to do it." Well, I suppose under that condition, it's possible. It's certainly possible under the old test. But again, then we come down to the ABC test, and this person's holding themselves out. But I think the real question is, despite the fact that they're saying, I've got my own business, is number two, that the worker performs work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business. Well, boy, in pizza delivery, is that really outside the course? I don't think so.
Yeah. But does it have something to do, let's say I have my own car and I'm a delivery person and I've got 4 clients.
Yeah.
And every Monday I work for Pizza Hut. Every Tuesday I work for Little Caesar. Then
you're okay. Then that would pass the test.
Well, under the new test, I'm not so sure.
No,
yeah. No, check it out. It says number one is that the worker is free from control and direction of the hirer connection. So, how much control does the pizza place or any of the restaurants have? You got to be here at 8 o'clock. We need you here for 4 hours. La-di-da-di-da. So, the more control they exert, scheduling, etc., the more likely you're to fail that. And, all you need to do is fail one of these, and then you're done. And then, more importantly, though, again, we go back to number 2. The worker performs the work that's outside the usual course of business. Is it really? If you fail that, if it's not, maybe he's an employee of all 4. Now, there are the case did say things about, let's see, what was it? It was contractors. It said, we recognize, and I don't remember the exact verbiage they used, but that subcontractors do have specialties, and the way I read it, the way I'm going to interpret it for you, and I don't want to misquote that case, but it might be a little bit, was, all right, if you're a general contractor, your business is to put the house together. And then all these people who have these specialties underneath you, well, they're doing the same thing. They're just doing a part of the house, not the whole house. But it seemed like the language in the case said, well, we're going to recognize that type of situation, that these particularized area of expertise will be recognized as independent. So that's the feeling I got from the case. It'll be kind of interesting to see when you have different facts that come up before the courts how they'll handle that.
This is going to.
But I'm going to say that they're going to do it. I think they're going to keep those people independent.
I think it's okay. So when you're an let me just go back to independent contractors of like. So it gets interesting because this gets knee deep. When I look at the hospitality world, there are group salespeople that are independent that go and sell hotel rooms for different hotels. There are marketing people, websites, social media, all of that, right? And so it gets to this point. So let's do something we can all understand of social media. So a company, say a restaurant, hires someone to do their post, right? And so that person may specialize just in restaurants. Okay. Now, there's going to be
and they have more than one client you're talking about.
Yes. Now, now is an actual company that's more than one person, is that, so if it's a company, so like say it's a website company, they have like 5 employees and they have like a social media team and a PR team and an ad team or whatever, there's the myriad of it all. Would an actual company with multiple employees instead of the solopreneur, would that still be labeled as a independent contractor?
Well, and I think that's one of the things that the court was alluding to when it was talking about subcontractors, that those subcontractors very often have their own crews. So I think that's part of the analysis. And so, and certainly advertising agencies that have multiple clients are still going to be independent.
Right.
Now, I think the problem, I mean, the clear answer to me for an advertising agency is, well, their specialty is getting the word out about us, but that's not what we do. We sell retail, we sell pizzas, whatever it is. And so I think you still, under that condition, meet the number 2, the B in the ABC test. I think it's maybe a little more difficult with the subcontractors, though. And again, it looked to me like the court was saying, well, we're going to recognize that, kind of foreshadowing. The case wasn't about that, but they kind of went off a little bit on that. And so, but I think that's a more interesting test case because the general is building a house and these subcontractors are building parts of the house. So how do they actually meet B of the ABC test? I think the court's going to allow that, though. That's what the foreshadowing seemed to indicate to me. Meaning they'll be independent contractors still, and partly because of the reasons you've already discussed. They've got their own crews. This is their recognized specialty. Maybe they don't quite meet the number 2 out of the 3, but it'll be interesting to see how the court handles that if the foreshadowing is correct, if I'm reading that correctly.
I think when it comes to contractors, they're going to put the house together, but they might not be an expert in all things. So they have to go get a plumber, they have to go get an electrician. They may be one of those who has that as an employee, those kind of people. On the other hand, they might just...
You certainly could.
Yeah, they could, but a lot of them tend to just go work with some other independent contractor that specializes in electrical work, and they know them for years and they work together. Some of them actually buy houses together and work on it together. So, but they're still like they have other clients, but they call the same person over and over because they trust them, to do a good job. So
yeah, and I think the Supreme Court's probably going to say that those specialized areas with specialized agencies, a plumber who has a plumbing business is going to be independent. I still want to see how they're going to deal with the B of the ABC test, because it seems to me you can make a pretty good argument that they are doing the work that is what the contractor does too. Because contractor is saying, I'm building a house. Now I've got all these people helping me do it, but I'm building this house. And this guy's just doing part of it. So is that really outside the course of the hiring entity's business? Well, maybe. Maybe he's just maybe he's just a manager. Maybe that's how they'll deal with it. But to me, that's a really interesting question. But I think that's what the Supreme Court's going to do with it, probably.
Wow. So everybody has to be super aware on all levels. Everybody, no matter, who's doing the work, who's hiring the work, everyone has to be really aware, when they get into a contract, how this can play out.
I've counseled people already on this and said, hey, look, people who are talking about building a workforce with independent contractors, and I said, you better look at this test, and then we probably need to discuss it a little bit about the situation that you find yourself in, because this test, I think, is much more friendly to employees and will allow way more employees. So you're just going to have to be careful about making that decision.
And the employee side, do you think employees are staying up on this kind of thing? Employers are always like, okay, we're the ones paying the money out. The employees, how many people do you think?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think when you have a Supreme Court, a California Supreme Court case come out that most people really know about it. They don't fall like lawyers. Eventually, a lot of people will start knowing something about it, but I think it takes a long time. Now, there was a lady at one of my referral groups, and she actually has a lawsuit going on, and she knew about it right away because that's important to her case. But that's the only person I've talked about who knew about this. I've announced it all over the place, and people go, "What?
Okay, so you don't, get into that until something happens that you don't like,
right?
And then you start researching, and usually what's in your mind about what's legal and what isn't, it's about 10, 20 years old.
Well, this is what's so weird. These kind of laws, it's really interesting because I know chefs who, this is really, when you look at the hospitality industry, because you look at weddings and those kind of, the catering side can get really tricky because someone could be, working part-time for a place and then they have a full catering company, you know what I mean? They come in and that could be dicey. Bartenders do it too, or they travel. Chefs do it. Chefs come in, we're, a special chef for the night. And, that dinner went really well. Maybe you should come again next week, kind of thing. So there's this event. And I wonder how this is going to also end up being, it's going to affect the music industry, I feel, because there's musicians that perform in bars like once a month, or they're the residence house band, right? So could the house band end up being, even though they perform gigs in other places, if they are there on a regular rotation, like every Wednesday night, there's a lot of people who host karaoke or whatever every Wednesday night, every Friday night we do this. Could that could end up being, I know there's contracts for that kind of stuff, but could that end up being weird because they're part of that? They're part of the promotion?
I think there's, you have to take the question more seriously if someone's an employee or employer under those circumstances. But let's take the musician, for instance. Normally they would not, they would meet the requirement of being free of direction and control because, all right, they have to show up at a certain time, but they're playing their stuff, and they can play it how they want. You're paying them to be as good as they possibly can be, and they're going to determine how good they're going to be, and they've got a lot of control over their product. And I think number two, that the worker performs work outside the usual course of hiring entity's business. I think it's hard to say that a restaurant's in the business of music. They certainly are in the business of providing food, and maybe they hire someone to help attract that. It's more like an advertising thing, I guess, or a marketing thing.
Like, look at Belly Up, like in San Diego, they have a live.
Well, that might be different. Might be different.
And all restaurants, one of their highest fees is paying ASCAP, because even, and this is something all restaurants, you've got to be aware, shops, retail outlets, if you do not pay ASCAP or BMI, they will come after you for playing music in your store, music in your restaurant, just even the regular radio station, because they want to pay the, and I don't even want to get into that because I could, there's like a whole thing on, I mean, that's a whole show too.
You mean like a royalty? Is that what you mean by ASCAP?
Yeah, it gets into the royalties. So ASCAP, so when a musician records something, they become a member of ASCAP, and that's why that has that name. And then you have BMI that also has that name for that way. But anyway, so they pay, and it's supposed to protect the musicians, but it doesn't always.
So people can't keep playing their music,
playing
and
their
they never
music,
get paid for it,
and they don't get paid for it, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, you could be playing, you run a little restaurant, and you're like, hey, let's put on, our favorite blues thing, and we're gonna have blues night, and we'll just have blues music in the background, and serve this kind of food or whatever. That restaurant, an ASCAP person walks in, you'll get fined, and you have to pay. The fees are like over $10,000, like a year for this. I know shop owners that got in trouble for playing country western music in their western store for not paying ASCAP. They got a fine for like $14,000-$15,000. It's insane. So you have to have royalty-free music or have permission from the artist. It's the same thing we go through here with our radio shows. All music must come from the musician with their permission to play it on the shows. It has to have that because we're out in the air. We're not like we're not a normal radio station, but we are. There's all these weird laws on all of it, and it's the same thing as you can't just take some photo off the internet and use it. Someone's going to come after you. Half of the time, did the musicians get the money from ASCAP and BMI?
No.
That's the weird thing in the middle, right? So that's that weird red tape crud that happens. And that's where I could get political on it in the music politics, but this is what happens. And so musicians can go in. So yes, you have creative control. If musicians come in, like if I was to open a restaurant, I would say I would only want original music because then it's the musicians playing their thing, and it should be. But if they do a cover, you can go and get fined if an ASCAP person walks in and says, I'm ASCAP and I got your ASCAP.
Well, aren't you paying the musician for being there though?
Yeah, because they're making money off of the musician being there because the crowds come in because the musician brings their following, and that's how the bar is making money because they have the musician there, especially if you're a live music venue. But you can.
So even though the musician's getting paid for doing their thing, let's say it's their original music, then ASCAP can come in and say, hey, that's okay. Okay.
That's okay. If you're doing all originals, and they're getting paid, that's a different thing. But if you even play...
By playing the Beatles.
You play the Beatles, you can get in trouble.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. So there's lawsuits on that all the time, and fines and drama and...
I don't know anything about that. That's interesting. Well, thanks for educating me.
Yeah, you could be a dive bar.
I thought I was the expert.
Well, on the music side, we deal with so many musicians, and we played bars, and we played places in San Diego, and it was like, we didn't even know that, but...
It's a real gray area because you have two, let me call them associations that founded themselves who somehow have the right to find another business.
Yeah.
They're not government.
No.
So it's kind of interesting. They're
it's kind of like a union, and when there's musician unions, but it's kind of, and I think, and I haven't heard anyone really get nailed lately. It's kind of like but even YouTube, you use, YouTube is, there's just so much stuff, and it is for protection of the artist, which is good. You should get paid. Yeah.
Let me just say,
but there's we're in this weird world now.
Sounds like it might be a trademark violation.
Oh, there's that too. Absolutely.
Something really odd about it because they're not the government.
But you should not be making, if your business is enhanced by music being played in there, then you need to pay for it, is basically it. So the guys I'm talking about, there was Southern California, not far from you. They had a country western store, and, smart business guys too. And they're like, oh, we learned the real fast, hard way. Like, they're playing country music, the latest stuff. They even had albums they were selling in their store that they were playing. I mean, from the distributors, they're selling it, they're playing it. Well, now that's even worse because they're making money off of the albums. You need not to pay for a license to sell music. It's crazy because
Wow.
also because of the ambiance of someone walking in. If you feel like you're all countrified, you're gonna, feel all like I'm gonna wear those boots. Therefore, ding ding. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna I'll set up something on this board. We'll do a show with this. Yeah.
Okay.
If you play a normal, like a radio station, the radio station has already paid.
Yes.
So you can play.
I think you can play. Okay. However, so if you go in a sports bar and you watch sports on the TV, you have to pay an extra. You can't just put sports on the TV. You actually have to pay your Comcast thing or whatever. Yeah. I don't want to give them a shout out. You have to pay those people. Like if you don't do it as a business, you can get nailed on that too.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I didn't know anything about that. I want to talk about Uber and Lyft though.
Yeah, because they pick up people after they're at the bar. See, can you just tell we hang out in sports bars and music?
Yeah. Well, you guys know Uber and Lyft very well then. Hey, I'm not embarrassed to take an Uber or Lyft if I've had a couple at a bar. You just got to do it.
It's better than getting in trouble.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's
absolutely.
There's some.
Oh, it is. The service is amazing. I've never used Lyft. I've always used Uber, and now there's a new one, Bounce, and one of those people is in one of my referral groups. So I got to start using Bounce and at least check it out. But there's a bunch of these that popped up, and what they're doing is they're calling themselves software platforms.
Right.
And that's how they're getting away with the independent contractor thing. But I think this ABC test in California is going to make it really hard. Because are you really in the business of software, or are you really in the business of being a tax cab? I mean, come on.
I'm just an app.
I'm just an app.
I'm an app with ASCAP. Yeah. That's it. So this is going to be interesting because so I know a lady. She was posting this on Facebook, and she's with Lyft. I think she's with Lyft, one of them. And she goes, and they, wait, because now this gets weird. They had some incentive to get Uber, Lyft drivers, and I should find it, to go and recruit other drivers, right? So that's weird. And so if she got somebody, they would give her like a $300 little thingy, right? Because that's weird.
Right.
I'm not sure the wording, but she's like, it's a referral system, but she's already lifting or Ubering for them. And then she goes, and it's great because she's earning really good side money, it's helping her make rent, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, and let me answer the question. Yes, this is really safe and fine for women because everyone's asking her as a woman, you shouldn't be doing this, blah, blah, blah. She goes, she's had no problems. It's safe for women. And I'm like, well, that's a bold statement to make, but because you don't know what's going to happen to anybody in any place. But I thought it was interesting because when I saw that she was posting this because she was hoping for someone to work so she would get this extra $300, that's an incentive, which does touch in the bonus land, which does kind of go into in the employment agreement, doesn't it? Like in a weird way?
Yeah, I mean, certainly employees can receive bonuses, and do independent contractors ever make a bonus? I mean, normally the payment is determined by how the contract's written. So I think it's certainly possible let's take me for instance. Let's say I engage in litigation with for someone, I represent them. And they go, look, I'm going to pay you this hourly rate. Maybe it's a little less than what you normally make. But if you win, I'm going to give you a winning bonus of twice that amount. Is that a bonus or not? I don't know. It's casino. Sort of sounds like one. So, but I'd still be an independent contractor. I wouldn't be an employee. So. But now, what about
being an affiliate? The internet's full of that.
It
has an affiliate program.
Yeah. Well, I think the real question is, do they pass the ABC test anyway? I mean, are they independent contractors on the ABC test, or are they employee under the ABC test? And again, I'm going back to Lyft and Uber and Bounce and whoever else. I think because they pick up people, drop them off, and Uber gives them a percentage of whatever that fee is, I don't think you can hide behind the fact that, well, we're just a platform that gets people together. No, you're a ride sharing. Your purpose, your sale is providing rides for people. So I think that's where they're gonna. And I think this case, Dynamex versus Superior Court, where they adopted the ABC test, I think it was really directed at Uber and Lyft. I really believe that.
Yeah. Okay, I found the Facebook post. And I can't say her name because it's confidential, but this is what she said. I finally signed up to drive with Uber. Now I'm driving for both Lyft and Uber. It is a super fun and flexible job, and as most people want to know, it is safe work for women. Okay, so I clicked on it, and I was wrong about what I said, and that's why I especially want to say this. It's like, here, sign up to drive, blah, blah, blah. Here's all the privacy, da-da-da. Earn $175 guaranteed. So-and-so invited you to drive with Uber. Sign up today and earn $175 guaranteed for your first 30 trips. Earn less and we'll pay you the difference. Trips must be completed within 90 days of sign up. Terms apply.
So it's a guarantee.
It's guaranteed, and you have to do it in your first 30. You have to sign up today and earn $175 guaranteed for your first 30 trips. So they're saying you have to do 30 trips to get the 175.
And you have to do it within 90 days, I think. But yeah.
You have to do it all in 30 trips within 90 days, earn less, and we'll pay you the difference. So that's
10 trips a month, basically. If you're going
they're telling you what
to be half
in a
serious
weird
about it, that's
way.
pretty easy.
Weird.
No, but
it's weird.
That's
well,
like incentive. You don't have to do it.
No.
But if you do, you get the money.
It is like a casino game.
That's like an incentive.
I think Uber and Lyft are pretty good about the control issue, and that was always a big thing under the old test, the Barolo test in California. I don't think they really do have a lot of control over their employees, at least from what I've seen, or their workers. Let's call them workers still, from what I've seen. But I think under the ABC test, they're going to have a hard time under the B part, number 2, that the worker performs work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business. I think they're in the normal course of their hiring entity's business if it's Uber and Lyft. And so control, maybe Uber wins. Customarily engaged in independently established trade, I don't know, maybe. But number 2, outside the course of the hiring entity's business, I think that's tough. And I think it's a lot clearer under the ABC test than it is under the other tests.
Yeah. So everybody watch out for the number 2. That's what I have to say.
And I made a big deal out of that in the article because I think that's the sticker for most. The control was always there. So if you controlled them a lot, you're the employer. That's number 1. I think number 2 is the sticker for most people, and that's, hey, if you're doing our business for us, we're an employee.
When does it
and then you go back to the bartenders. If a bartender working for a caterer, and maybe it works for 5 caterers, I don't know.
Yeah.
But isn't that what a caterer does? I mean, I'm thinking of a liquor caterer anyway. Isn't that what they do?
Yeah, they go and they work for gazillions of people. They have different. You're doing a service for somebody.
Well, I mean, but the caterer, that's what they're doing. They're providing drinks for everyone, and the bartender is doing that. So it sounds to me like number 2 is a pretty tough one for the caterers.
I think the caterers and bartenders are going to have a hard time. I think also it's going to touch into the music world in some weird way.
If
it's going
a lot of caterers,
for the live venues, entertainment venues.
I think a lot of caterers, they cater a meal, but they don't necessarily have a bartender. Some do and some don't.
No,
so they have to either, if they're arranging the meal, have to go find one. Just like sometimes they have to find the tables and the chairs. Other times they just waltz in with the food.
It runs deep, like in this whole thing is really
that could be a wrinkle in it, but normally what I've seen is that the caterer that provides alcohol is separate, and so maybe the caterer that provides food gets them to come in, and that's an independent contractor relationship. But the caterer who provides the alcohol may have several people, bartenders, who will do this freelancing, and their main job is at some other bar. and they probably, there was probably a lot of independent contractor agreements in that kind of situation. And I'm saying that may be the way of the dinosaur now, because I think the second element of that test outside the hiring entity's business is tough. Again, I'm assuming you've got a liquor caterer, and I know some who that's all they do. They don't do any other kind of catering, just liquor. And the people who work for them, they're doing their business. They're selling that liquor. They're providing it. Yeah. So, yikes! I think that's the tough one under this new test.
Kind of an odd thing, because at the same time, some people need more protection, on the employee side and want to be on that side. And then there's a whole bunch of people who really want to be freelancers and independent, and this could get really weird. And when, an independent and, works with, let's say, the bartender keeps going back to the same hotel. They have a good relationship. It's all working for each other. Then here comes red tape saying, sorry, now you've made them an employee. But the guy wants, or the gal wants to be independent. I want to just, if I want to,
like if you need,
this sucks.
You can't.
This is not a free market system.
No, if you need to have the ability to say no to your employer, I don't want to work that day or that hour because I'm going to school instead. Then you're only.
Well, there's less control.
Yeah,
under that situation, there'd be less control. And maybe control is an issue. I don't know, because if you're catering, you can say, hey, I need you there from here to here, serve drink. And, it's not rocket science. You have to know a little bit about recipes. But the simpler the task is, the more likely you're to be an employee anyway. Certainly under the old test, I'm going to assume they're going to do the same thing under control in this test. So, unless you're highly skilled, that's a tough one to say that they're not controlled, probably.
Let's say you're a really good bartender, like a flair bartender. You got talent on here.
Yeah.
But
okay, if you're juggling and doing a lot of things while you're doing that, well, maybe, okay.
You're half entertainer, half bartender, right? So you schedule like gigs because you can't do it full time, and because you're doing something else.
Yeah,
like going to school or something else.
Acting.
So you only accept the jobs when you're free to do the job.
Exactly.
So that would make you independent, unless, like, you went to one casinos where you usually find them. I don't know
Vegas.
How I know that.
But
anyway. They say, okay, you're going to be here from Monday to Friday from 2 to 6 or something like that. And you can do that, so you take it, but then they want you there on Sunday, and you're like, no, I can't. So now, are you independent or you're an employee?
No, that by itself, I don't think would do it. Certainly, employees say, hey, I can't work on Sundays, and the employer decides, all right, I'll let that happen, or hey, I'm going to fire you. So I don't think that by itself. You'd have to pile on a lot more facts that showed lack of control, I think, under that circumstance. And again, I want to get back to, you're talking about a bartender working for a caterer or whatever. They're still under this new test. They're still supplying the product that the entity is in business for.
Yeah, exactly.
So
they're still
I think it's tough.
Yeah,
right, pizza delivery. I think that's a tough one too. It was before anyway, because there's a lot of cases on it. But I think you're going to look at number 2, B, in the ABC test, and say, that's why I made a big deal out of it in my article. I said, boy, if you're providing the service that the business is in, and that's why I think Lyft and Uber are going to have a hard time, because I don't think they're platforms. I think they provide rides. I think that's what they do.
Yeah.
So B is going to be the tripper in all those cases, I think.
Yeah, it's different than if a guy came in to do your roof as a contractor. He did your roof, and then he's going to come back the next month to make sure the seal's good and all whatever he has to do, and maybe has it on a maintenance program or some kind of thing like that. Maybe it's, you have a fridge guy that comes in. He's not really selling your stuff, but he's a fridge company dude or a roof guy or whatever.
I think that's independent. That sounds
independent. Yeah, that's independent. But as soon as you start like serving the customers, like, hey, I think you're right. I think that's where it's going to get to that weird spot.
Would that make Uber and Lyft salespeople? who sell. They're the platform.
Well, she's trying to recruit people for them.
Well,
I don't think so.
They're
mean,
taking the bookings, right? They're taking
Nancy, you should be working for the big defense firms and coming up with these great arguments. Holy smokes!
I know, it's like here, just like every time it's she's like, "Ward's coming on, yay!" And she gets all ready, dude. Just she gets all into it, man.
No, I like the law. I think it's really interesting now. A bunch of people get together. Usually, you call them Congress. They write up all these laws. They have no idea what they're talking about. They put them into action, and then the legal system has to go figure out what do they mean by that.
I know, like that's got to be crazy. I mean, it's like here's your Gmail alert, ding, ding, ding.
I mean,
here's another law. Well, this is interesting to me because at the end of the day, that's what I'm saying. I understand where there's things that help protect certain entities, and then there's the side of it like it just is. Oh, here comes another.
The person wants to be independent, but maybe they can't be under this test. Well, I mean, there's there's truth to that, and there's not. I mean, if they really want to be independent, they won't enforce that law. Yeah. But maybe the state might come in looking for FICA and FUTA and then enforce it independently of the employee. But if the employee really wants to be independent, yeah, and maybe the employer doesn't meet all the elements of this ABC test, they're not going to sue unless they get mad. Now, you see, that's what I see. I see people, either independent contractors or misclassified as employees, and then there's a fallout. They get fired or whatever. Now they're mad. Now they're looking for ways to get back at the employer. And even though they were happy being independent before, all of a sudden they're not. And that's why the employer has to be careful because the employer runs all the risk.
Yeah. So you could be like independent until you get sick and you want health care and you don't have it on your own as independent. So then you decide, I am an employee.
Oh, wow.
Well, certainly there's that. I mean, maybe you want some sick time. In California, we have sick leave now, paid sick leave, at least 3 days. And we've talked about this a bunch, 5 days in San Diego, and I think it's 5 in San Francisco, et cetera, et cetera. If you go, hey, I've been an independent contractor, I don't get any sick leave, and sometimes I'm sick. I don't think I meet B of the ABC test. Yeah. You better give me some sick leave. So that could happen.
Wow. This is going to be an interesting time, Ward.
It's a really interesting and I think a major shift in the law.
Yeah, it's
going to be interesting to see how it shakes out.
Do you think that they did this just because they want to nail Uber?
My gut tells me that honestly that they did do it in a trucking where. I'm sorry. It's not a trucking case. He did drive trucks, delivery driver. Mm-hmm. And that was a big problem too. There were lots of fights about that. So certainly they took care of that, but I think in the back of their mind they're thinking Uber and Lyft too. I really do.
Wow, how interesting.
But I mean that's how business is created and how things morph and change. Look at the internet. Mm-hmm. Who knows what's going to happen with the internet and internet neutrality and all these companies, and do we have monopolies or do we not?
Yeah, those are good questions too.
Yeah, because I mean, is there anybody else that does what Google does around the world? I would call it a monopoly.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, sort of. You could say AOL or some of the other.
No.
I mean, they're not doing it nearly as well.
No, they're not doing it well because they're taking the results from Google. So there. Now.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing with you. So maybe they do have a monopoly.
Yeah, because I mean, we were dealing with something the other day with Alexa.com that's owned by Google, and another company, 3Snoop, pulls up Alexa.com results, and it's right there, and you can see it. It says Alexa.com results, and says it's here. We did this search for you. I'm like, no, you didn't. You took Google's results, and a lot of the other so-called search engines do that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
So I'm looking at it going, I smell monopoly.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely not arguing with you. I mean, there's certainly a case to be made about that. And the legislatures are really scrambling to come up with ways to regulate the internet and commerce that's done on the internet. It's a challenge.
It is, because half of them don't understand it other than tweeting, and that's what I have to say about that.
This is crazy. This is just crazy. I've got good music for you, Ward.
Okay.
I've got good music for you today that we've prepared because of Uber and Lyft, and because this is good because it's called Road to Reason. Because of everything that changes. It's from a band out of West Palm Beach, actually, called the Cravens. And part of what I'm doing is because we have a cocktail contest going on. It's national, and it actually does include San Diego gift certificates and all kinds of prizes. On BigBlendRadio.com, people can go there, but it's a cocktail contest. So it's to make the Craven Raven cocktail. And so we were talking about bartenders, and we're talking about Ubers and Lyfts and all that. So I figured this would be a good song to play, Road to Reason, don't you think? It's a good one.
Yeah.
I like it.
I know. And next time you come on the show, I have another special song for you. It's called It's called Lawyered Up. That's another one.
Ooh.
I know. I'm we're booking musicians just after paying ASCAP to make sure that you have the right music on your episodes here.
Are they independent contractors or employees? That's the question.
Oh my God, this is going to be, I know, really. It's like, don't even talk to me unless you know who you are. This is going to be a really, I smell a bunch of crazy lawsuits coming out soon.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, Lisa, maybe I shouldn't get into this on the air. But you're in the business of entertainment, and if the artists are entertaining for you, are they your employees? Do they do your hiring entities business?
We're promoting their new album. No, because we're on the promotion.
Okay.
No, because we don't pay anybody anything.
Exactly. Ever.
Oh, then you're safe.
No, and we don't. Exactly. We're not paying them. They come on our show. We promote their albums, and then we say, have a nice time.
Okay.
As a defense lawyer, I would say they need to pay us for the promotion.
Absolutely, because it's promotion. See?
There you go. All right. I like it.
It's interesting.
I'm sorry I brought that up.
No, we got it. We've got it down. We've got it down, and I'm really adamant with everyone we deal with. Because I got Nancy over here. So Ward, before you go, I want to ask if Nancy and I have an argument. Of course, we've never had one, right? Who do you think wins?
Oh my gosh!
Don't answer.
Let me flip a coin.
I know, but come on, look at Nancy go, man. I mean, she's got it. She's got some. Wow, I can say it.
She spins out those facts patterns really quickly, and it always has a little nuance in it. She's pretty good at it.
She'll take you down some road you didn't even know existed.
Well, my second job at the auto club was to help people go get their deductible back, subrogation, for their car accidents. So if if it wasn't like a big car accident, little one, then you pay your $100 this so many years ago, $100 deductible, and then you go to small claims court. And then you would try to go get your deductible back from the party who hit you, kind of thing. And yeah. So I could help them prepare the case, but not present it.
Right.
So I would go and get the parties and look at what happened, draw the accident out, get all the facts, go measure the streets and all that good stuff. It was really fun. And then I would go to the court with them and sit at the back. And I would say to them that I am not here. I'm not going to speak. Do not turn and look at me. And because then the judge would go, get out. And I'm not a lawyer. Just help prepare the case.
Right.
So
well, in California, lawyers aren't even allowed to go to a small claims court.
Really?
So so I would just sit there and listen and hear all the judgments and see where I could have done better preparing the case and where instructing the person on how to present their own case, and then they go and say something totally different, and I would just want to hit them.
Yeah, it's like, no, you weren't supposed to
say that.
Yeah, I mean that's.
So you had to guess what the person was going to say, even it's like Trump. You give him a speech and he throws it out the window. You know?
Yeah,
It's kind of it is.
you got to figure out what's gonna. Yeah, it's interesting. But she also worked for a lawyer in Kenya. That's different. That
Oh.
was yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You've done a lot of and then there's also just going through lawsuits.
I worked for a lawyer on 76 Sunset Strip in Hollywood.
That's right too. Yep.
Yep.
Mhm. Yep.
Yep.
There's a lot of
Very cool.
lawyers and family and stuff like that too. So it's a thing. Everybody have a family argument and see how long that lasts. Just film it.
Wow. Yeah. Sounds risky. Sounds risky in your family.
I know. No, it's all good, man. It's all good. Ward, always a pleasure having you on the show. Always fun and interesting. And this opens the door for all kinds of craziness and could be good for some and not for others. Again, everyone, keep up with Ward. Go to bestemploymentattorneysandiego.com. You do free consulting for the first time, right?
Yeah, initial consultation. Yes, certainly.
Yeah, that's just so everybody knows what they're doing. And everyone, again, Ward's article on this is up on nationalparktraveling.com. And also, he's one of our contributors to Big Blend Radio and TV magazine. You'll see his expert page on blendradioandtv.com. And his articles there too, not always on hospitality. He did San Diego, California employment law. He covers all of it there. And here we go, bestemploymentattorneysandiego.com and at Ward-Heinrichs on Twitter and Facebook. And here it is, Road to Reason from the Cravens. And Ward, we expect you to submit a Craven Raven cocktail recipe, okay?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
All right. Thanks so much, Ward.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
All right. Bye-bye.
Got my sights on heaven, chasing down my sins. Bye-bye, lucky feather, trash back in the wind. Keep it on the go now, and keep it on the go. Wasted all that freedom on what I thought was sacred ground. Took a shot, got what I